The book of Daniel unveils profound visions, offering glimpses into the spiritual realm and God's ultimate plan. In chapter 7, Daniel receives a striking vision of the Ancient of Days. This vision, filled with vivid imagery, reveals God's sovereignty and judgment over all earthly powers. It's a message of hope for the oppressed and a reminder of God's eternal reign. Daniel, a captive in Babylon, lived during a time of great upheaval. The Jewish people faced exile and oppression under foreign rule. Amidst this turmoil, God communicated his message of hope and future restoration through Daniel's visions. The vision of the Ancient of Days stands as a beacon of hope, assuring God's people of his unwavering control. This vision provides comfort and assurance to those who trust in God. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, God is on his throne. He sees the injustices of the world and will ultimately judge with righteousness and truth. Daniel's vision begins with the appearance of the Ancient of Days. This figure, representing God, is described in majestic and awe-inspiring terms. His clothing is white as snow, symbolizing purity and holiness. His hair is like pure wool, signifying wisdom and age. The Ancient of Days is seated on a throne ablaze with fire. This fiery throne represents God's power and glory. It evokes a sense of awe and reverence, highlighting his absolute sovereignty. He is not merely an observer, but the ultimate ruler. The scene in Daniel's vision resembles a divine courtroom. Thrones are set in place, indicating a formal gathering for judgment. The Ancient of Days presides over this court, signifying his role as the ultimate judge. This scene emphasizes God's justice and righteousness. Before the Ancient of Days, books are opened. These books symbolize the record of human actions, thoughts, and intentions. Nothing is hidden from God's sight. He sees and knows all that we do, both good and bad. This imagery serves as a stark reminder of our accountability before God. The divine courtroom scene underscores the seriousness of sin and the certainty of judgment, yet it also offers hope. For those who have placed their trust in God, this judgment is not something to be feared, but anticipated. Section 4. The significance of fire and the heavenly host. Fire features prominently in the vision of the Ancient of Days. His throne is ablaze with flames, and a river of fire flows out from his presence. This imagery symbolizes God's holiness, power, and judgment. Fire both purifies and consumes. It represents God's capacity to refine and cleanse, but also to judge and destroy evil. Surrounding the Ancient of Days is a vast multitude of heavenly beings. These beings, often interpreted as angels, stand in attendance, ready to carry out his commands. Their presence highlights God's majesty and the vastness of the spiritual realm. He is not alone, but surrounded by a countless host of heavenly servants. The fire and the heavenly host serve as visual reminders of God's overwhelming power and authority. He is not a distant deity, but an active force engaged in the affairs of the world. His judgment, though sometimes delayed, will ultimately come. Section 5. Eternal judgment and relevance for today. The vision of the Ancient of Days concludes with a powerful message of judgment and hope. The books are opened, signifying that a time of reckoning is coming. Justice will be served and God's righteousness will prevail. This judgment, however, is not arbitrary, but based on the perfect standard of God's law. This ancient vision holds profound relevance for us today. It reminds us that we are accountable to a higher power. Our choices have consequences both in this life and the next. The imagery of the Ancient of Days challenges us to examine our lives and align ourselves with God's will. Despite the seriousness of judgment, the vision also offers hope. For those who have put their trust in God, the Ancient of Days represents not a fearsome judge, but a loving Father. He offers forgiveness, redemption, and the promise of eternal life. This vision serves as a powerful reminder that our ultimate hope rests not in earthly powers or fleeting pleasures, but in the eternal God who reigns supreme.